Governmental Operations Committee at 9:07-ish. Yep. Please call the roll.
Joliet.
Here.
Gershenson.
Here.
Lubes. Taylor.
Here.
Hoffman.
Present.
Woodward.
Here.
Erickson Gall.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Chair Woodward, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business is approval of minutes. Motion approved by Commissioner Joliet, supported by Commissioner Taylor. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve. Someone, Commissioner Taylor, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Great. This brings us to our first and I believe only public comment. Correct? Yes. Okay. So anyone who wishes to speak at public comment, go down to the end of the table and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we will move right along. Okay. Next order of business is communications. Okay, anybody have any comments, questions on the communications? If not, I will entertain a motion to receive and file. Thank you. I was having trouble coming up with language this morning. Commissioner Taylor moves to receive and file. Commissioner Joliet supports. Any further comment?
Wait,
Yes,
Madam
yes.
Chair, so I'm looking at the appointments that ended 2025, and I just wondered if Dr. Dudley has expressed interest in stepping off of DHS. Have you heard anything, Pam?
She has reapplied.
Okay, good. And then I know John Eric wants to reapply for Area Agency on Aging. Have you received any notice or?
Tracy, have you received anything? I don't.
Okay.
So we typically, like next month, we may reach out to them to see if they
Okay.
reapply for, because I think that just expires the end of the year, right? December 31.
Area on Aging, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor of receiving and filing the communication, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. All right, moving on to our first item of regular business. Is our clerk and register of deeds, updated fee schedule, item number 8A.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
Welcome, Madam Clerk.
So Craig and I might knock wood a few times while we're sitting here. We are,
I'm sorry, I didn't ask for a motion
Oh.
to bring this up. Moved by Commissioner Taylor, supported by Commissioner Joliet. Thank you. Keep me in line.
and make sure that everybody knows, Craig Jones, Chief Deputy Register. So we're knocking wood because we are going live with our new vendor in Deeds November 3rd. This was a time for us to look at the subscription levels that we have and how many documents people are looking at when they're doing that. And we found that a lot of people who would do the smallest one were then getting another one. They were getting a second subscription that same month. So we increased how many documents they're getting per month. We increased the price to go with that, but they're getting more documents per per month with it. So, and then with the highest level, because now we're with a different vendor, so it changes for those who get a copy of every single document. It's a different program, it's a different process. So we had to look at this anyways because of that. And then we are going to be with the maps, with the copies, you have that schedule as well, the different size of documents. So for a few years, we have been without the really big printer, the extra large printer, where we used to be printing the maps, like the map that you have in the hallway of, you know, your districts and all of that. Ours died however many years ago, and we decided at that point not to purchase a new one. And then we were all getting our maps from Oakland schools. They're not doing it anymore. So we are purchasing a big printer again, and it will also be a scanner, so we can scan in some of our bigger documents into our program as well. So we have prices again going back to the like 18 by 24. We can't implement that yet until we get the big printer. That's what I'm calling it. I don't know what the real term is for it. What is the real term for it?
Plotter.
Plotter.
I thought he was gonna say.
Right, if I said plotter, would anybody
Big
know what
printer?
I meant? No, so the big, you know, it's
The
big.
big printer.
So the big printer, the really, really big one. So, so obviously not implementing those prices just yet until we get that, but then we'll be able to print and sell those maps and things again. So that's what we've got going on.
I actually know what a plotter is, because I used to work at an engineering firm way back in the older days. Anybody who did computer assisted design knows what that is. Not that I ever did it. but-
I don't know, I would think it's somebody who's plotting, right?
Chair Woodward?
So without going too far down the rabbit hole on plotters and other things, and was there analysis of like whether or not other firms that we could contract with? I just know that this stuff technology is expensive and maintaining is expensive, and so analysis of like using,
You know,
contracting with another entity to.
so what was happening was that people were going to like Office Maps or something like that, and we would be emailing them that map to be able to print. I just not the most comfortable with that they're having that information. I don't know how they're getting rid of it, if they're keeping it forever. Do you know what I mean? So it just made me uncomfortable that somebody that I don't personally have a contract with, that was our option. So I rather have it in-house, and you know, so we have it. I mean, and for us, it's gonna have, like I said, multiple uses. It's not just the printing, it's the scanning for us to be able to add some documents to our records that we haven't been able to before because of their size, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, would you prompt the vote?
You have 68, nays.
Well, that passes.
Thank you.
Don't.
Do I just stay? All right,
Just stay,
that goes,
you're
I
up
stay.
next. Item 9A, Board of Commissioners, Board of County Canvassers appointment.
Yes, okay, so hopefully you all recall that we have 4 canvassers on the board, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans.
Sorry.
You need to take a vote first, sorry, whatever.
Commissioner Gershenson moves, anyone support, Commissioner Joliet supports, thank you. I keep forgetting to
Okay,
ask for a
that's okay.
motion first.
That's okay. They are staggered. So every 2 years, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican are up, their term is up. The Republican that we have right now that would be up this year did not want to continue serving. And Gloria, the Democrat, does want to continue. So you have the list of 3 names. We have to get those from the parties because we have multiple congressional districts. In Oakland County, they come from the congressional chairs, and then we get the names. So, and then you guys will be voting on them. And just a reminder, it is not a private vote, so your names are on the ballot, that's in the law, but and it's always been that the top name out of the 3 names is what the parties are, I guess, what they're requesting. They put them in order of what they want. So I'm happy to answer any questions talk about the canvas at all or anything else?
Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, just to our Republican colleagues, you comfortable with that list? Cause I don't know any of them.
I don't know any of them either.
So,
You haven't been heard, you haven't been
Okay,
contacted.
Chair Woodward.
if I may, so, but Brown knows, like, this process of selecting the names is the most bizarre, and it's a little unique to Oakland County because we've got the 7 congressional districts that touch us. And so it's the congressional district leadership that makes a recommendation of the 3 lists for both parties. What's frustrating is that, I'm looking at this list now, but I think on the Democratic side, most of those people don't actually live in Oakland County, and about half of them live in Oakland County for the Republican members. So instead of the chairs of the respective county parties, which I'd have a lot more confidence of, like, if the chairs submitted a list.
Right.
I have been told that the chair of the Oakland County Republican Party is very comfortable with Jeff Schaefer being appointed there, and so that gives me the confidence. And I've been in touch with the chair of the Democratic Party, and reappointing the incumbent makes a lot of sense, and I know a lot of people know Gloria Spanier. So
Jeff Shaper.
Vance
does live in
Patrick,
Oakland County. It's my neighbor.
supports Jeff.
And I will, he comes to our public accuracy tests, so I'm familiar with him as well. I also know Tim better, but, so again, it's yes, they ranked them, I guess I'll say, in the sense that who's listed number 1 is what they're encouraging. I don't know how else to say that.
So my understanding.
They,
The parties, the respective parties.
they listed them in that order and submitted it to you?
Yes, so Vance Patrick for the Republican
Right.
Party, like because he kind of gets the names from the congressional chairs.
Okay.
And so my understanding is that the number 1 is who the party would pick as their number 1 choice.
So what the law requires is 3 names submitted by the Republicans and the Democrats. It's the congressional district chairs that make the recommendation. And all 3 will be presented to all 19 commissioners. And you'll vote on the Democratic one and the Republican one. And so I think the purpose of this meeting is just to get on the same page. Gloria Span and Jeff Schaefer.
Okay, so we're
we're not,
moving to make a recommendation to the full board.
I think we
The full board
can,
will do
yeah,
what it wants,
exactly.
and it will be a regular business item at the next board meeting, because it won't go on a consent agenda regardless of what we do here.
If I can just remind you all that the law has changed a little bit when it comes to the canvassers and their obligations and their duties and the oath they take and all that sort of thing. So perhaps you remember in the past, we had a canvasser once who was hesitating on signing off, not based on anything that had actually was part of the duty, and that happened in other counties across the state. And so, that's changed with the ballot proposal and with legislation supporting. So what a canvasser does is very focused and limited.
Commissioner Gershenson, did you wanna?
No, just, let's vote.
Okay, so I guess to clarify, we're voting on submitting the top name on each list, or all 3 people?
Well, also your ballots will have all 3 on them
Okay,
for each party. So this is a time when when you're voting for a Democrat and Republican on the same ballot.
you mean at the board meeting?
At the board meeting, you'll have a
Yes.
paper ballot, and it'll have the 3 Democratic names and the 3 Republican names, and you'll each
Okay.
vote on a Democrat and a Republican.
So what we're doing here is just voting to forward those 3 names from each list to the full board for a vote. Okay, great. All right, any further questions or discussion?
You could also make your recommendation of each party,
Right,
each person,
We
if you want,
could-
it's up to you.
theoretically change it here. I haven't heard anybody who's suggesting that.
Let's just pass it on.
Yeah.
Just pass it on. Okay, I like that. Would you prompt the vote, please?
We have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
That passes.
Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. Okay, moving along, we are at item 10A. Well, actually, we have several items for human resources. 10A, 2025 supplemental collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the United Auto Workers. Sorry. Local 889 UAW, representing Department of Information Technology. Item 10B, Human Resources, fiscal years 2026, 2027, 2028, collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the Oakland County Employees Union affiliated with IBEW Local 58, AFL-CIO. Oh my goodness, lots of words.
You don't need to
here.
read all these.
So, and item C, D, and E are all collective bargaining agreements. Great.
To cue us up, that's plenty to cue us up.
All right, do I have a motion, Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Taylor? Good morning.
Good morning, thank you for having us out again. Few items, but before we do that, I know I wanna keep it as brief as possible, but you have a chance to see a lot of the human resources leadership here regularly, but I wanted to take a moment to recognize the folks that you don't always get a chance to see. And I have an incredible team that doesn't appear necessarily publicly very frequently, and I brought them here for you to recognize that without them, all of this work in the collective bargaining process is impossible. So I just want to introduce them just so you can match faces with names and that for them to get the credit that they deserve, because I just want to reiterate, without them, this is all impossible. So we'll start at the top. This is Melissa Clark. She's a senior employee labor relations specialist. Rosie Wood, I believe you may be familiar with. Rosie's presented to this body and others before. She is my administrator and she's terrific, as is Melissa. You're all terrific. And the third member of our team here, who's here as well, is Zach Newwood. Zach is our office support supervisor, keeps us humming and running on a regular basis. So other folks are from different divisions, but certainly we've leaned on Heather and Haley as well. And as you know, Heather Van Pooker has assisted us tremendously with the collective bargaining process as well. So I won't spend any more time on that, but it wouldn't be fair if I didn't point out
Very
that
good.
they were here. So thank you for the indulgence on that. And without further ado, we'll jump right into the first one is the supplement for for IT, and I'll just find that very quickly. There we go, sorry. So this is beginning to be a bit of an old hat with this group. This follows the pattern of many prior supplements that we have brought before you. Just by way of background, the UAW has chosen to organize employees. They can do so either by classification or department. They have chosen to do so by department, as is their right under the Public Employee Rights Act. So this is just the latest of many to fold in the information technology department and their employees, select employees, into the UAW. As you can see, it's a fairly straightforward concept. I'll just walk through each paragraph very briefly, and if there are any questions, happy to answer those. So the recognition clause, as is present with all of them, that recognizes the types of employees that are here. It's also parroted in the wage and increment schedule, but it's all non-supervisory employees of IT that are listed in the wage and increment scale. And then, sorry, that takes up most of this. It's a variety of employees. PLV, personal leave, this just follows in line with what we've been doing with other UAW departments, and says they'll receive 10 PLV days in accordance with section 65. That's the 65 of the master agreement, the primary agreement. This also indicates the preservation of the hybrid and remote work schedule. This next paragraph regarding vehicles is a little bit unique to IT. So it provides vehicles assigned to the Infrastructure Services Division. That's the radio team that avails themselves of a need of a work vehicle. And that is it for that one. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to hear them and possibly answer. Yes?
The take-home vehicle, is that something new or is that always, have they always had a take-home vehicle?
They've had them, now it's in a contract. They've had, that's not anything new. We're not like
Okay.
requisitioning any more cars or anything like
Okay.
that. Yep,
I'm
yeah.
just putting it in print, okay.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry about that.
Any other questions, concerns? All right, why don't, since we just move on to the next one and.
Oh, you want to just wait till the end?
Our motion is for all 5 of the.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That makes it easy.
bargaining agreements.
Okay, looks like the next one is the IBEW non-WRC. So there are 2 IBEW contracts up in front of you here today. The first one we'll do is the non-WRC. WRC only, just like the title says, only applies to the Water Resources Commission. And you'll see some consistencies here between these contracts and the rest of them. So what I would like to do, if it's all one motion, is the first one will probably take the longest and it'll be the most difficult to get through. But in the end, it'll speed us along in some of the other smaller contracts. There's some analogies. So I'd like to begin by saying it's a 5% wage increase, 3.75, and well, let me take a step back. So it's 5% and $1,500 in the first year. The percentage increases, just so you're all aware, are identical to the UAW agreement that you approved in October. The only difference is here because these are some of our lowest wage earners. We're sensitive to that. So they have a $1,500 payment in the first year, and then for the following 2 years they get $500 per month, and that really hits home for them because it's a lump sum for the employees, and it's not as painful as a percentage increase for the employer because it doesn't compound. So it's a win-win for our low wage earners as well as the county. It's a fiscally responsible way of rewarding our lower wage earners who really, I mean, the lights don't stay on without these employees. So that's the wage increase for the life of this contract. Next is the retirement, not to beat a dead horse, but this is also parrots the UAW contract. It's over the course of the 3 fiscal years, it's 9/9/12. Then moving on to benefits, I'll just briefly read through our summary sheet, which this body has, and if we've got any contractual questions, happy to answer those at the end too. So we've got a 5-tier implementation process for family composition structure, for cost sharing. That's new this year. It's also, you may recognize that a little bit in light of what was approved for the non-representatives. It modifies employee contributions to healthcare, modifies dental to increase annual maximums, create a premium or a premier level, eliminate modified level, and update employee contributions and deductibles. And if there's any part of this where you really want me to speed along, like my feelings will not be hurt. So if I know that you have this, but honestly, there's no problem if you want me to like move along. So it increases an annual opt-out for spousal family waivers. County is now going to contribute for single, it'll be a $1,700, and for family a $3,400 to a health savings account in the coming fiscal years. A 5-tier prescription plan, which based on the types of drugs that Blue Cross assigns to us. We have no control over that formulary, but so depending on what Blue Cross tells us, it will ask for a little bit more contribution because it's no secret prescription drugs are a serious cost. We created an annual 500 merit max incentive, and I just want to explain what that means. So many employees, many of our senior, very long tenured employees, they're at the top of the wage scale, and we obviously want to retain the talent and knowledge that they have. So what we have done is we have implemented essentially a $500 bonus that is tied to their annual merit increase in the year after they hit that ceiling. So if I hit my top of my wage scale this year, then next year when I don't have a raise coming to me, I get a $500.
What about the following year?
Yes, so yeah, sorry, yeah, and then every year thereafter.
Same amount?
Yes, 500, yep. Yeah, that's a good question. It's not a one-time, every year. County increased personal leave from 5 to 10 days each calendar year, and then the cap was raised from 15 to 20. We're also providing 48 hours of a floating holiday for non-hybrid, and that's true for all of these contracts, but I just want to point out the IBEW, I believe that they have 0 hybrid eligible employees. These are the folks that come to work on premises every day. So they get those 48 hours. There's no cash value associated with that though, just so there's no danger of like a long-term payout or anything like that. We adopted the healthy workplace policy, which this body approved long ago. We folded that into the contract. Updated the annual leave buyback to 1 buyback for non-hybrid, and that also parrots a clause in the UAW contract. Again, we're sensitive to the fact that, I mean, I'm allowed the privilege of working hybrid. That's a tremendous benefit, but not everyone gets that. So we're recognizing that perhaps we can reward those individuals that do. So we're doing so with this the annual leave buyback for those folks that are on premises. Tuition reimbursement, that is now consistent for the rest of the county. That bumped up to $52.50, and the reason for that is that number is set by the IRS. Perhaps that could change, but we don't want to make it more and then have a taxable consequence to our employees. So that's why we limited it to $52.50. There's also hourly shift premium that we've increased. So for it's at 25 cents per spot. So it's currently $1 for afternoons. I'm sorry, it's currently 75 cents for afternoons, now moving to $1, and then for the midnight shift was $1, now it's gonna be $1.25. It's a relatively low cost. 7 days or 56 hours of death leave, or I'll say bereavement. Death leave's a little harsh. I guess that's the difference between copier and plotter, bereavement. So it applies here too. So it's for what is traditionally considered closer, a spouse and or partner or a parent, guardian, or child to get 7 days, 3 days for others like aunts and uncles. That's the summary of the economic, so I can jump into the non-economic, which again will also be very, I'm sorry.
That's okay, before you jump in, I just had a
Yeah.
quick question. So you said that the personal days were increased from 15 to 20?
The cap. So let me explain that then. So employees get 10 days, but you can only carry over year to year up to 20. So if you accumulate, if you're at 17 days at the end of this calendar year, you'll only get 3 more days next year at the turn of the calendar.
Okay, but you get 20, I just know at the state, they made it a law that you have to give 15, but you guys increased it to 20?
That's correct.
Is that just a great idea, or?
Well, it was an ask, and that was our ability to negotiate elsewhere in the contract. So like for example, without giving away too much, we would if asked for a higher shift premium, our response would be no, but we can give you these additional days which don't have a cash value. So that's how we were able to kind of get home on a few of the economic issues by delivering 5 additional days.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, on that 12%, I just lost it.
Retirement, 401,
Yeah,
Mhm.
what was it?
I think it was 8. Was it 8?
So it went up from 8 to 12.
Yes. And that is also analogous to the UAW one.
Thank you.
Any others before I jump into the non-economic?
Okay.
Heading to the non-economic ones, we've added a working lunch article allowing those employees to work through their lunch and perhaps leave early with supervisor approval. If it doesn't work and the work still needs to be done, then the supervisor has the authority to deny that. We added a benefits consultation release article, and what that means is we will allow employees, I believe, up to 1 hour to consult with an on-premises. Many of you may know we have Empower, or I think like Greystone, shows up on premises in our building. It's every Monday. Thomas is great, and so many of these folks who just don't have the time or perhaps the sophistication to plan for their own retirement, this gives them an opportunity to meet with that person once a year for up to an hour. We codified FMLA leave article. We updated the certifications and license expenses article. So those licensures that are necessary for example, like a pesticide application license, we updated that article as well as the DOT and CDL. We updated our interview process article, which is sort of an internal HR process that is now codified in this contract. Others like a dues checkoff, layoff, recall, and transfer article. I'm kind of rushing through here. I don't mean to, but if there's any questions, please feel free. After hours work article also added an interview and how to interview LOA that was previously a letter of agreement between the groups. We folded that in to the contract. We added the ability to establish an Oakland County Park Discount Committee. That is not to say that we are guaranteeing any discounts from our lovely Parks Department. That is to say that perhaps there's an exploratory committee that could be formed so that maybe Oakland County employees could get like discounted golf or discounted access to parks. But we'll obviously work with our parks partners to clarify that and see if it's feasible. Merit rules, I want to stay here for just a moment because this section will beget an explanation throughout all of the other summaries. So as part of the merit rule revision process, well, let me take a step back. The merit rules are currently being overhauled. It's very much time since many of these were written, circa the Depression era. So it's time to update it. And our view of this is that now that we have so many unions, where you look for your work rules and employee handbook for non-union employees should be the merit rules. So those should get a refreshed look, an updated look to govern those of us that are simply merit non-union. And for the unions, the opposite is true. Where you should look first is a collective bargaining to see where the terms and conditions of a union employees are governed. And that's where you start, is a collective bargaining agreement. So what we have asked each union, and they have graciously complied, is that tell us what merit rules you want in their current state today, and we will add that language to the contract. So, county recognized holidays are a really good basic example of this. So all the unions said, okay, we want these holidays here that are in the merit rules, add that to the contract. But they're all very clear on the concept that if and when our merit rules get the refreshed look, they're going to be bound by their collective bargaining agreement, not by the merit rules. So it gives a little bit of professional and corporate separation between a collective bargaining agreement for union employees, that's where they should negotiate their rights, and the merit rules for the rest of us. And that's gonna be applicable. You'll see that in all of the contracts, all the summaries that are before you and before you next week or next month as well. We also updated the union steward article as well as the updated language for the internal job classification review that will come with a moratorium given because we just negotiated the terms of the contract. So that was a good time for folks to identify what classifications they wanted to revisit. So we'll have a little moratorium to give our wonderful comp team a bit of a reprieve on that. unique to animal control, there's an updated uniform allowance. We added some observed holiday language to the animal control contract because they're 24-hour operations and there's some unique idiosyncrasies when county observes a holiday that may fall on the weekend. So if Christmas falls on a Saturday, we observe it at the county on a Friday. But folks at animal control still have to come in on actual Christmas, so we worked around that to make sure that they're compensated for the appropriate day off if they come in on the actual holiday, but not on the observed holiday. It was harder than I would have thought, to be honest, to come up with a resolution to that. We added a death in the line of duty article, not to bring up bad memories, but we all recall the tragedy of Deputy Reckline and the command and sheriff's office received a unique benefit that if there's a very unfortunate death in the line of duty, that the surviving spouse as well as the born children and unborn children, because unfortunately we all recall that Deputy Reckline's wife was with child at the time of that horrible event. So that those individuals are covered by the county healthcare until such time that the spouse remarries or reaches the age of eligibility of Medicare and or the children reach the age of 26. So that applies, you'll see that in this contract as well as the others, seems like the right thing to do. Thankfully, and I won't spend any more time on that. Facilities maintenance, we updated their uniform appendix. Also, the Homeland Security Certification Appendix, I didn't know, this was new to me. There are a variety of Homeland Security type of certifications that are kind of graduated or gradual, and so we updated the ability for an employee to receive that certification. Keeps in line with our our goals of having an educated and very thoughtful workforce. And the last point is we have a grounds snow removal letter of agreement that we folded into this contract. Any questions on those before I move on to what will be a much more expedient summary of the WRC IBEW contract?
Commissioner Hoffman.
I have a question, this is regarding the non-representative employees. They're going to receive a 4% wage increase effective in September. Everybody else getting 5%, right? Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're right, that is correct.
Why wouldn't they be treated the same way?
Well, as a non-represented employee, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, so one thing that would separate, you wanna do it?
Well, or do you want to? Sorry.
Come on up.
So, thanks. If you'll recall, we brought before you, I wanna say it was in July, our 5-year benefit strategy, which included some significant changes in how we're gonna handle benefits for years to come. And part of that conversation began when we started with the UAW contracts a year ago now.
Yeah.
And so this is gonna be a long story long. We really appreciate our collective bargaining process and our partnerships with our unions and their willingness to help us solve for that long-term solution for our benefit expenses and the changes that we need to make going forward for years to come. Part of getting that in place came with a significant 5% increase to help offset some of the new expenses that are coming to employees. When we talk about our non-union groups, the average salary for our non-union is significantly higher. So we're talking about IBEW right now, just to illustrate. Average annual earnings, $59,500. For non-union, we haven't pulled out all the new UAW folks, so it'll probably go up, $94,500. So stark differences in average compensation. So when you think about 5% for someone who earns under $60,000, that's very different from 4% to someone who's earning $95,000, $100,000. So the math's a little different. And also with our non-union folks, for example, this year, they'll have a fully funded deductible for the high deductible plan as an option. That's basically money back in your pocket if that's a choice that you make. The UAW is not gonna have that this year because they're not signed on for all of the new changes. So group to group, there are variations that work well for that group and reflect their priorities and also reflect great strides that they made in partnering with us on some of these benefit changes. So the 5% to 4%, when you look in totality at the packages, I think you'll see a very equitable way that groups stack up. And we were absolutely sensitive to that because we want there to be equity while at the same time free our groups to negotiate for what they value and prioritize. So that was a long way of saying that's why it's kind of different.
There's an added piece of that too, is that the non-representatives also are not required to pay any union dues.
The what?
No, as a non-represented employee, I don't have to pay into any union dues. So for those that have like union dues that represent coming close to 1% or in or around that, this sort of equitably makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, that's a good question, any other questions before we move on to the WRC one?
Chair Wood.
So the benefit for family in our fallen officer, is this a standard policy for all county employees going forward, or is it just in that agreement?
I think it's just a creature of contract for now. And for each of these contracts and the other ones will be before you next month.
It's something we probably, I would be very supportive of a standard policy across the board, but get through your contracts.
But no, thank you for saying that, it's good to know.
So with the non-represented, I believe they would have some means of compensation through, if it happened on the job, the workers' compensation might, to some extent, provide some of those benefits. So this is kind of an added on in terms
Of the healthcare, yeah.
right, in terms of.
Comp wouldn't
if somebody-
necessarily.
Yeah, if somebody, you know, unfortunately passed away on the job, they do have certain benefits of the workers' compensation system, so this is kind of like an added plus.
Correct.
So. Any other questions? Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Onward to the WRC Water Resources summary. So this one will be a lot easier to
Speed it up, Dan.
Shares that.
so
Didn't like that.
So I'm gonna skip through the financial portion of this too is analogous to what was previously described. So unless there are any questions on the economic section of this summary, which is before you, I'd like to just move on to the non-economic. I promised that it would go faster and I'd see I'm delivering. So updated list of permissible equivalents. At the county, we have this practice of if you are qualified and capable of moving into, when I started here, I began at Corporation Counsel. I was an assistant corporation counsel. There was an available position as a senior assistant corporation counsel. I was qualified for that. I was moved into that automatically. This contract now lists those similar positions throughout many divisions of WRC. So just to take one example, there's a maintenance laborer, maintenance mechanic 1, maintenance mechanic 1, and maintenance mechanic 2, et cetera. So it allows the county to move those folks in, give them a little pay bump, a little added responsibility without like a formal promotion or anything like that. Again, working lunch applies here, benefit consultation release here. Oh, I thought I saw a hand. There's also this contract also provides for a pilot program for take-home trucks. So what we were encountering was if someone lives in a part of the county where they have an emergency, oftentimes these folks would have to drive past their ultimate job site. So they go from home to the county to pick up the work truck, driving past the job site that they're eventually gonna have to return to, and then they gotta go back to the county building, drop off that work truck, pick up their personal car. It just screams of inefficiency. It's adding hours to a situation where we could have, solved it in a moment. So we're implementing a pilot program to allow that to occur. Hopefully during the life of this contract, we get some data to support or deny the ability to continue that program. But that was kind of the only unique item. Those are the two unique items to WRC, the WRC contract that was not present in the non-WRC one I just described. Any questions about that one? If not, I can move on to the next one is the medical examiners investigators. And this is a new union, new this season. So they're a relatively small group, I believe 7 total. So it's, you'll see the same summary, almost identical summary with regard to wages and retirement in this. It's analogous to the prior ones. And I just want to point out some of the benefits as well. County's going to increase the personal leave, as we discussed, from 5 to 10 with a 15-day cap. So that's different than the 20-day. It's a little lower. Adopted a healthy workplace policy, as this board is familiar with. Tuition reimbursement also applies. And this one, we are going to supply 2 additional vehicles. These employees typically, serve warrants, subpoenas, do investigations, et cetera. So they're on the move a lot, and it made sense to, the other way around. This group when they do their death investigations, they're picking up cadavers and bodies, and nobody really wants to put that in their own personal vehicles. So it allows for them, just like I described with the WRC group, it allows them to quickly respond from their house to the site of an investigation instead of, again, driving to the county, picking up a car, driving back to the job site, and so on and so forth. So tuition reimbursement, and they're going to have a one-time payment of $1,000 to employees that receive a fellow level certification from the ABMDI. That is their sort of certification body. I didn't know that there was one of those either, so that was very interesting to learn. But that's the highest level of like an medical examiner investigator protocol that you can receive. So they'll be compensated for that. They're also going to get an equipment and clothing allowance of up to $500 annually. The only non-economic item here is the adoption of those merit rules as I had previously described. Any?
Okay.
All right. Moving right along to the prosecutors, investigators, very similar group as I stumbled over just a moment ago. This is prosecutors, investigators perform functions for the prosecutor's office. They serve subpoenas, interview witnesses. They're moving about throughout the county. So the wage increases are identical. I just want to point out, and this is a 4-year contract as well, so I just want to point out something. Since this contract expired back in October of 2024, these individuals have been working without an effective agreement for well over a year, or almost a year rather, sorry. And so this contract, the wage increase will be retroactive to October of last year. And that is a standard practice personally of contract negotiation, not to punish employees for the expiration, working through an expired contract. Benefits are all very familiar, 9 and then 12% in the final year. They're agreeing to the same healthcare concessions as well that I outlined for you in the IBEW contracts, as is the prior group. Just very quickly with their benefits. The county to increase PLV from 40 to 80 with a 160-hour cap. These folks mostly work 410, so that's why this is in hours, not days. Adopted a healthy workplace. We've got tuition reimbursement. Compensate members for 10 hours each holiday not worked, and for 10 hours to be assigned. They have a floating holiday. They also have a $500 merit max incentive. We reduced their salary steps from 8 to 6, so they get to the highest level faster or sooner. Death in the line of duty also applies to them. Couple non-economic, we updated the management's responsibilities. The prosecutor's office's own electorate, so it's a little bit unique in the sense that the prosecutor has statutory authority to appoint or fire sort of at their discretion. So that'd be unique to this group. We added some additional paragraphs regarding discipline and the disciplinary process. As well as regarding separation and termination of employment, and then the same adoption of the merit rules concept. Any questions on that?
I have a
Commissioner Taylor.
question. On the retro pay, is that on base salary or is it all late vacation, sick, all of that?
That's just the wage increase.
Right, but I meant it's retro, so are you paying the retro on all hours?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's a good question, but yes.
okay, thank you. That was it, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay. All right, so we're voting on 10A through E. Would you prompt the vote?
We have 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Right, that motion passes. Okay, and then for our last item for human resources is 10F, which is fiscal year 2026 salary recommendations for non-represented employees. May I have a motion? This Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Weeds.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Before you is the memo and recommendation for the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee to approve the county executive's recommendation of a 4% general salary increase for all non-represented employees, which includes appointed officials, part-time and hourly classes, students, summer and seasonal. This will also create 7 new full-time eligible classifications, not positions, delete 1 unused part-time position. And as a reminder that the county executive's budget recommendation does not include a recommendation on the county commissioner salaries. As you will recall, last year the board adopted a resolution setting the 26, 27, 28 commissioner salaries to be tied with the state tax commission's inflation rate multiplier, which that number will come out in October. It does not apply to the judges of the circuit, district, or probate courts, which are set at the maximum allowed by statute. The county executive does not make a recommendation on the other elected officials, the county clerk, register of deeds, the county executive himself, the county treasurer, prosecutor, sheriff, and water resources commissioner. In recent years, the Board of Commissioners has taken a separate resolution to address the increase for those parties, and this a reminder that this board should bring one forward this year. And then the road commission members. And if there's any other questions?
I do have
Commissioner
one
Hall.
question. Thank you. For the non-represented then, do they get the same benefit as far as the increase in the 401k return from 8% to 12%?
Currently, there isn't for
Well, I'm just
retirement.
comparing it to the representative group. And so my question is it compatible to the 401 contribution the county makes? And for the leave time and the personal leave and the merit max, and do they get any of those things?
So non-unions, 401 contribution is currently 8%, and I'll just reiterate that when you have a non-union average salary of 94.5, 8% of that is different from 8% of lower wage earning groups. Collective bargaining involves bargaining units really setting their own priorities and identifying their own needs. And so there are gonna be variations. It's not an automatic like following of how the non-union is gonna follow. But we do look very carefully at every aspect of the total comp package and where there is equity and how it plays out as an entire package. And we are comfortable with our non-union package being fair and equitable, not only compared to market, it's extremely competitive, meets or exceeds in almost every point, but taken in total, it is equitable compared to the collectively bargained groups. In the recently approved 5-year benefit strategy, in later years, I believe it's 2028, we will be requesting a change, for example, in vesting for non-union to bring the vesting schedule down to 4 years. Right now for retiree health savings, I wanna say it's 8 years.
10 years.
10 years is, 10 years. And a little bit shorter for the 401, but still too long. So one of the recommendations that was brought forward in terms of our 5-year benefit strategy and that we will bring back for action in 27 for calendar year 28 will be to shrink that vesting schedule for non-union. At some point, we will want to talk with the board about adjustments to 401 contributions for the non-union, but that will be coming. But at this time, I will just say that we have looked as a total comp package at non-union and each collectively bargained group. And we are comfortable with the equity and the parity that's there when you account for things like significant variations in average pay.
Okay.
So, and I know you've presented on this before when we were talking about our strategy. How does our compensation for retirement benefits compare to private industry, other public entities? I don't know, I'm
Very
putting you on
well.
the spot.
Yes, the short answer is very well in terms of how much we are putting in and matching, but not so much on the vesting. That's why the 5-year plan gets at the vesting first and more quickly. One place that I think we can do better, and we talked about this with the 5-year benefit strategy, is the retiree healthcare. And so you'll see as we bring forward collectively bargained contracts, you know, some folks are prioritizing that, others are not. And that's why you're going to see some differences among the groups, but that's appropriate because they reflect the priorities of that group. But for the non-union, we will be talking about vesting schedules. At some point, we'll be talking about the 401 contribution and certainly about the retiree healthcare. But otherwise, we're very well positioned.
Any other questions? Okay, would you prompt the vote on 10F?
Chair.
Chairwoman.
Well, you finished the roll call, I guess, the vote on that.
Oh.
Finish the vote on that, and then I have a
Okay,
follow-up question.
okay, thank you. That motion passes. Chair Woodward.
So, I mean, and you mentioned in terms of like dealing with other electeds, so we have a budget next week. Is it something that we can take up in finance? I guess it needs to be, it needs to be adopted in concert with the budget. So,
So the elected official salaries begin January 1st. So
so there is a
you
little
have some
time.
wiggle room.
Never mind, that way there's not a hurry, okay.
Commissioner Gershis.
Well, I just want to applaud this group's presentation and Dan, you're winded. Not getting winded.
Winded.
But I really appreciate the sensitivity to the non-hybrid workers and the hybrid workers. I think that was great. And also, your explanation on the difference between the representative and non-representative employees. That was very illuminating and I appreciate that.
It seems, it makes sense that there's a little bit of apples and oranges when we're comparing representative, non-representative. There should, you know, in the grand scheme of things, there should be equity, but they're not gonna be equal per se. There should be, you know, difference. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Parks and Recreation. We have 2 items up. Do we want to take them up together? They're separate. Okay, great. So 11A is a grant from Parks and Recreation to the City of Rochester for $700,000 to support the repair and restoration of the Clinton River Trail. Item B is a partnership agreement with the City of Rochester Hills for a portion of Bloomer Park. Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Lewis. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. Thank you for taking up these 2 items. This is related to what I would call, I guess, a minor grand bargain. And if it's okay, I will point out some of the component pieces in a big picture, and then we could talk about the individual items. And I will do my own Vanna White work here today, unfortunately. Okay, well, Kristen will help. And by the way, Kristen Wiltfang from Economic Development, I think you all know. Ken Elward, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Rochester Hills. Yes. So this relates to a rather beautiful, wonderful stretch of the Clinton River in the eastern area of the City of Rochester, Rochester Hills. There are 4 components to this arrangement here that will result in a pretty extraordinary recreation experience for Oakland County residents and residents of the region. The first piece, this is the Clinton River Trail, which connects to the Iron Bell Trail, the Great Lakes Trail, the Paint Creek Trail. Kristen, help me if I'm forgetting any pieces here. There were 2 catastrophic washouts last summer. Kristen can provide more detail when we get to that. And required a pretty major restoration project, 3.7 million, is that right, roughly? We are providing the last gap funding that was needed between a combination of the Ralph Wilson Foundation,
Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan.
DNR, the City of Rochester. So our $700,000 is kind of closing the gap to allow this washout to be restored, and we can go into that in greater detail in a minute. This piece of property here is 128 acres, privately owned currently. This is going to EDI tomorrow. We have a purchase agreement to purchase it with a $300,000 contribution from the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission, who are going to be utilizing this for a very important invasive species mitigation project there, the sea lamprey, which has wiped out the fisheries in the Great Lakes over the years. They have a spawning point here that they have been trying to manage over the years, but it had been dammed up, and then they need to straighten out the river and create a control point for that sea lamprey project. So we do have that purchase agreement coming forward. And then this is about 100 acres or so of the north part of Bloomer Park, which is the City of Rochester Hills Park. Used to be a state park. It is a beautiful park. And the remaining part here is the city's Bloomer Park here. So the second item before you today is an operations and management agreement for 20 years, I believe, for this north part of Bloomer Park. And then there's a 4th piece that'll be a follow-on. The City of Rochester owns this piece of property here that will have another operations and management agreement. We'll probably come to you with next month with that. And for this agreement, we are contributing $4 million to the City of Rochester Hills in recognition of investments they've made over the years in the infrastructure of this area of the park. We will be getting this Yates roadside park here. If you know where the Yates cider mill is, across the street from there is an existing city park parking lot with a bathroom, some amenities there, which is going to be the eastern point of access for this total 275 acre park that will be called Clinton River Oaks, and include walking trails, paddling experiences long-term, wonderful access to nature. There's a bunch of mountain bike trails that have been developed throughout here. And then totally about a 3-mile linear experience that could even be extended further into the city due to some brownfield redevelopment that's gonna happen down the road there, where there's a big restoration component to that. City will retain Bloomer Park, the main portion of Bloomer Park. If you've ever been there, there's sort of a plateau area that hits to a ravine and then goes down towards the river. We're gonna have the ravine down to the river area as part of this Clinton River Oaks, Oakland County Parks experience. But we'll be collaborating with the city long-term over, joint development projects that cross the boundary there. So altogether, again, 275-acre Oakland County Park comes out of this. Restoration of one of the most important main trunk line pedestrian trailways in the county. And preservation over the long term of this really beautiful area of the Clinton River, very important environmental area with a important invasive species mitigation problem that actually affects the whole Great Lakes. So that is the whole picture. Happy to answer any questions about the big picture, and we can get into the two pieces.
Questions or comments? I don't know if I mentioned this and I missed it. This is an area of the county that is not yet have an Oakland County Parks presence.
That's correct. Yeah, this is a component of our overall, what we call Mission 26, which is our larger game plan that I'd like to come back when you've had some pretty full agendas. So when you have one that's a little lighter, I'd like to come back and present on that and give you the bigger picture idea of where we're going, why we're, going in certain directions. But one of the top priorities in that plan is to, get parks where people live and have a equitable park system that benefits all of Oakland County residents. So we've gone from about 70% of Oakland County residents within a 10-minute drive of an Oakland County park to, by the time we're done with all this, we'll be at 90%. So that's a pretty good jump in just a couple of years by adding through these partnership agreements, like the one you approved recently for Farmington Hills, a heritage park, Southfield Oaks that'll be coming through our ARPA plan, Oak Park Woods, Pontiac Oaks. We are closing the gaps on our map to create a much more equitable park system. So, yeah, thanks for the question.
Commissioner Lubes.
I don't think you ever sleep because you come up with these marvelous creative ideas consistently. So thank you for your work.
All right, okay, we put that in the record. If there's no other questions about the bigger picture here, the first piece that's before you for a vote is that $700,000 grant. I guess it's called a park development agreement, not a grant, with the city of Rochester. Kristen, is there anything I missed that should be touched on?
No, in your packet, you'll see some of the photos of the actual washed out area. This was not just a little pothole that washed out in the trail. I mean, this was 100 feet long, 10 feet deep, and it just significantly washed away this section of trail. As Mr. Ward mentioned, it's part of 2 cross-state trails. So we have the Iron Bell that goes from north to south, from Detroit all the way up to the Upper Peninsula. And then we have the Great Lake to Lake Trail that goes from Lake Michigan to Lake Huron. This is at the crossroads of those 2 cross-state trails. So the funders that have come to the table, and the Ralph Wilson Jr. Foundation and the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, these are significant grants for them. And it's a significant stretch of the trail. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. But there are 2 washouts that are part of this project as well.
Chair Ward.
So the erosion that, I guess, contribute to all this is has that been completely mitigated? Obviously, giant storm comes through, I can't stop the future, but
yeah,
all these improvements, what did you change the river? What's that? What is the mediation to prevent the type of erosion that contributed to the washout?
Thank you. Yes, we actually went back and we reviewed the historic aerial photos back to 1940, and then again, we jumped ahead to 1963. This was a forested wetland, so there really wasn't any water that was retained in that area. over time, development has occurred, stormwater's increasing, that water has to go somewhere. The railroad 100 years ago, when they developed the trail, never meant for that to be a dam. So over time, we are watching that pond get bigger and bigger, and there was no culvert that was ever placed in that area to help alleviate the water, the stormwater in that area. So the mitigation efforts that will be taking place will be to install appropriately sized culvert at an appropriate depth, because we want to maintain some water, because that area is a heron rookery. So that's where all the herons are nesting at this point, in those standing dead trees. So it's a very environmentally sensitive area, and we want to maintain some of that water to help deter some of the predators in the area and keep those nests safe. So our engineers have been working to work with the state to obtain the permit from the state, which has been approved, finally. We've been waiting on that for quite some time. But that culvert will help alleviate the stormwater and help allow the water to get to the river where it's trying to go. Water always wins.
So in short, humans screwed it up. Got it.
Population.
And these humans help fix it.
You'll notice in your packet, there was some water, or the precipitation data that we had obtained from some of the gauges in the area. We noticed on the radar that there was a very high level of precipitation that just sat over the top of Rochester. So the gauge said half an inch that day. It was actually almost 6 inches that just sat on top of that area. So a lot of water. Gotta go somewhere. Yep.
Yes, some of my people in my district in Troy have photos of their drains overflowing. It was quite a rain event. But we'll be seeing more and more of those as we go forward. And so it's good to hear that you've done the work to come up with a strategy so that we can hopefully guard against this happening again. I'm sure that'll be part of the new park strategy is to deal with, you know, the effects of climate change on the river. So thank you. Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Gershenson.
I would just like to see the county's contribution recognized in some way, because that particular area of the county has been very critical of many of the things that we do, and sometimes I think we don't put out enough publicity about the way we are helping communities, and this is certainly an example of that.
You do both items as one? You want me to
they're
cover the
together.
second item as well?
Yes, please.
So the second part of it is this 20-year operations and management agreement, the City of Rochester Hills, for approximately 100 acres or so of North Bloomer Park. It's already a pretty well utilized area. If you get a chance, take a walk. It's quite beautiful. I saw a bald eagle there. I don't know if Ken put it there.
It was real.
But it's pretty remarkable. There are gonna be some limitations because it is, a lot of it is in the river's floodplain, so we're gonna have to be very mindful, as the chair mentioned, regarding climate change, and what can be, fixed assets and what has to be adaptable, so that we don't end up with the same washout situation. But so there's the $4 million payment, very similar to the Heritage Park agreement that we brought before you. And then we will work out through a transition period over the next 6 months, the minor details of the park plan, the CIP plan, the development plan, who will do what. There's always opportunities sometimes for us to contract with the local parks department if they're already there to do some of the day-to-day maintenance rather than hiring more county staff. So those are the types of things we'll work out during that 6-month period of time. And as I said, we'll also have that one final agreement with the City of Rochester for that yellow portion on the map. So happy to take any questions.
Commissioner Loops.
The report to the board that we have states 19 years. Is it referencing something different than the 20 year?
Yeah, it's 19 years because the city was concerned that it tracked to our millage expiration. And so by the time we get this signed, it'll be 19 years.
Thank you.
Chair Woodward.
So the $4 million payment recognized in prior capital improvements, like how was that calculated?
So there is a certain amount of equity with the Farmington agreement. I think we do have numbers that show a prior $4 million, but this was a negotiation. This is a negotiation that has gone on for more than a year. And this was a number that we felt was fair, could both. Yes, Ken, you wanna?
So, yeah, I mean, very recent previous investments in Bloomer Park, a lot of the parking lots are expensive, right? And it's a large parking lot, including drainage. We spent over $4 million just on the parking lot, not including the drainage and other erosion improvements for that particular area. And so that was, one of the numbers that we used essentially was that, of course, that's worth $5 million now because we spent it, 3 years ago or what have you, and we're still finalizing some of the drainage and other expenses, which were roughly another 500,000-ish, if you will, on some of those improvements. So that was sort of the number that we used as a baseline, if you will. And we really appreciate that essentially this consideration for this, I think, be a great partnership and great presence for Oakland County.
So the parking lot for the other portion of Bloomer is an access point for the overall thing. That's understood.
It is. It's how many people get to the park right now.
Get to like where the Clinton.
Yeah, right. But we'll have the other Yates parking lot on the eastern boundary, and then I didn't touch on in the yellow part there. There's another parking lot that's for the Clinton River Trail, so it'll have built-in parking lots. So it'll be a park we can open pretty quickly.
One more. And one more investment that we did make was around that Yates parking lot. It was very difficult to get to Bloomer Park from Yates, and we really beefed up and essentially built a trail from that section, that roundabout. And so now you can walk along the river and you don't sink your knees up to your mud on that type of thing, and that's so we invested significantly essentially in beefing up the access point from Yates to Bloomer and to potentially to this river preserve area as part of that. It was actually more than $4 million. That was the $4 million just for the parking lot, so that was another $300,000-$400,000 for that beef up as well.
I think it was, if you added up the Turtle Woods, all the component parts there too will be in the $4 million range. So just, it's a little more challenging for us to create park space this late in the game in these communities that are well developed, but takes a different approach, creative approach, takes partnerships, and it's always give and take. And the mayor of Rochester Hills, he's a tough bargainer, I will say that.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Yeah, Commissioner Woodward, I appreciate that conversation or that question, because when you see a figure like $4 million with no breakdown, it's really important for any residents that see this agreement to understand where that figure came from. I mean, you just explained it, and that was gonna be my question as well. So I think that's an important component to put into these reports. This is where that figure came from.
The public, okay, very good.
Commissioner Julia.
I echo Commissioner Gershenson's because it would be nice to have a breakdown. But a question, thank you for making the entrance to the park better for Yates. I've tried to do that. It's extremely difficult, yeah. And the velodrome that was there, is that no longer, what are you doing with that?
And so that's part of, if you will, stays with the Rochester Hills Park area, but that has had past its useful life. If you're in that area, you're aware of that. And the volunteer group that had been maintaining and running that for many, many years in COVID also started running and developing the Lexus Velodrome down in Detroit on this. And so the city made the decision to essentially not pay $100,000 to renovate that facility because it was not getting used anywhere near as much as it used to. And so we're looking at a couple of different options there. Most likely it will be some type of pump track, which is essentially, you think of a skate park, it's sort of like that. It's asphalt and it's for bikes, so you use gravity to actually move your bikes along instead of pedaling and going up on hills and curbs. And Bloomer Park, as Chris is already aware, is already sort of a mountain bike destination on there, and the area that they're going to be sort of taking over and managing. So it will just complement. That's the direction we're going. It's several years out.
Okay, so that's not part of the agreement
That is
then?
not, yeah,
Okay.
that's the part above the bluff stays with Rochester Hills essentially, and that the part below is sort of
I see,
leased for
okay.
20 years
I got you.
through
That's it
Oakland
right there,
County.
I think.
Okay,
So the Sled Hill stays on the Rochester Hills side
Gotcha.
as well.
okay,
So,
thank you.
In the cricket field.
and the cricket, yes, the multipurpose field, absolutely, yes. The more active parts and the part that fits with Oakland County Parks mission is the part that they'll be engaging with this river preserve, which we're very excited about as well.
So one question I had, we now have a policy in Oakland County Parks that in general, our parks are free admission for all Oakland County residents. My recollection is that Bloomer Park does have an admission fee. How is that going to be handled if people are accessing the Oakland County Clinton Oaks Park through Bloomer Park's entrance?
So this was a point we weren't able to come to agreement on. The city is implementing a parking fee, is that correct?
Yes.
At Bloomer.
We've had a parking fee
yeah.
there for 30 some odd years.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, which is one of the, at one point we were talking about the entire park. And then we decided to go in this direction of north-south Bloomer Park, so.
If I may.
Yes.
And so the access points to the reserve will be free, right? Through the Clinton River Trail, through the north section of the park, through Yates, which is free for entrance on some of that, and the trail there. So all those points will be free. But because we felt strongly that because the top part of this park is very active and very different than the passive part, that should be part of our cost recovery process, which is usually 20 to 30% is what we're looking at. And we'll still have significant expenses to run the active part of the park on that. So that was the justification for that.
So to understand, like if I access a park through the Yates,
It'll be free.
that will be free.
Right, and the Clinton River Trail on the west end of it too.
Okay, so the only time I would pay admission fees if I'm coming through the Bloomer Park entrance on John R.
Yes.
Chair Woodward.
What is the parking fee?
Right now, it's $5. We've actually put it on hold this year as we were in negotiation on that. We are looking at other options for next year to align with, we're going more to charging per hour, which is actually cheaper than in most cases for individuals and to pay $5 or $10, because individuals, especially that are staying on average an hour and a half, 2 hours, $1.50 an hour is roughly what we're doing, and then we don't have someone to approve. So that hasn't been locked in or approved yet for next year, but those are discussions right now we're having. So it's $5 at Bloomer, and there is an annual pass available for both residents and non-residents.
The way the agreement is written, it's a subject for us to discuss during this transition period. So there is the possibility if this is a sticking point that maybe we could come to an agreement upon it, but it seems unlikely at the moment.
This is where we are right now, yes.
Okay, that's where we are right now. I'll tell you where I am right now. I get the dollars to partner with, I recognize the investment that's been put in this, but from a county perspective, where we're putting in $4 million to help pay for some of these parking lots, one of two things needs to happen. Either there needs to be some sharing of those revenues to continue to help support the passive side of the park, or at least granting the same type of benefit that we grant for all county taxpayers.
Yeah, I believe really the way we're gonna promote this park is at the east and the west entrance. I think the Bloomer activation it's not something necessarily gonna be on the sign for the park. But it is something we can discuss in the transition period, Mr. Chair, and maybe I'll call in you to help with the final negotiations. But this is as far as we could get in a year plus of discussion back and forth.
Yeah, as long as there is a free entrance,
There are gonna be two.
two free entrances. Is there parking at the other, I'm familiar with
Yes.
parking at Yates.
Yes, if you know where the Older Persons Commission and Rah are, what's the name of the road? Letica?
Yeah, Letica Road.
Letica Road. There is a Clinton River Trail parking lot owned by the city of Rochester that'll be part of this yellow area that will come back next month with another agreement upon. So, you know, it's rare that we're able to have a park with built-in parking lots already, you know, so this is a park that can be immediately activated as soon as we're ready to go. It is already pretty well utilized.
I just have one comment. I agree with Dave that
We'll figure it out between now and
Yeah.
Put
next week.
that on the record.
More often than you realize.
that's
Some of this is for the show.
Okay, so this is my negotiation team. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Would you prompt the vote on items 11A and B?
We have 6 yeas, 1 nay.
All right, it passes. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
And any other business? It's like none, so we will be adjourning the Lago meeting at N33.
Good job.